Hello and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the sibling podcast to the popular weekly title. I'm this week's host, Jesse Billington, and I'm joined once again by our deputy editor, Chris Hope.
Hello.
And our content editor, James Peen.
Ahoy.
Gents, how are we? It's a lovely Friday afternoon. What are we up to this weekend, dare I ask? It's a bank holiday.
Bank holiday, and I've nowhere to be. I've got parents over, so I don't think I'm going to be doing anything too exciting, classic car related, unfortunately. So, yeah. How about you, James?
Pretty much the same. Was at a wedding yesterday, and then today's a glorious looking day, and the plan is to get out to top of the garden, buy a new barbecue, and then hopefully get out and do some bits on the one of the cars. I mean, my heart's telling me to work on the Beetle, but my head's telling me to get the van sorted so I can get it sold. So one of those cars will get some attention at some point. I'm guaranteeing it this time. I'm going to say it right now. Not just DIYs, we can some actual car work.
We're going to hold you to that. We'll ask the same question in next week's episode. Have you done anything to the van? We'll see.
No, but I had a really nice burger.
I did enjoy the new barbecue. That would be very good. Classic Barbecue Weekly. I think that could be a thing. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm hoping to finally get some bits and pieces done to my car. I need to get some bits and pieces done to the Mustang as well, because that's developed a bit of an awkward misfire. We're not sure if it's just temperature related. It's never been getting into temperature, if it's fouling its plugs. So we've got new points distributor bits and pieces, a coil, and some sort of bits and pieces just to sort of replace, because we don't know when the last time they were done, probably in the 90s. So hopefully that will get that running smoothly. Meanwhile, the MG, yes, won't be coming with me to Wythall tomorrow morning. It still has no front wheels. It does have nearly one side ready. I've got the new sort of stub axle mounted onto the wishbone. I just need to press the bushes into the wishbone and slot it in, and then hopefully I can mount up at least the passenger side. And I've finally got my friend to be unbusy for at least 2 nights next week to do the welding. We've checked all the welding jigs. We've figured out which bits we're going to weld. We've got all the pieces. My uncle has made a nice little jig to hold it all nice and tight and square. So we're very close. But I've been saying that for nearly a month, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, importantly, I will be at Wythall Transport Museum tomorrow, 23rd of May, for the Young Owners Meet as well. So please come to that if you're listening to this and thinking what to do with your lovely Saturday. It's looking like it's going to be good weather as well. So I think we really lucked into that one. So touch wood, it stays as such. Anything that's older than 2006 car-wise and younger than 40 driver-wise is what we're aiming for this Young Owners Meet. And looking like a good turnout. So the more the merrier. Bring along clubs, bring along classic cars. Should be a good morning.
When does it kick off, Jesse?
It kicks off at 9 a.m, runs till midday, and after that, you're free to do whatever you like with your time. I'd recommend the original Caffeine Machine, which is only about half an hour away, so you can sort of turn it into a full day out, which will be quite good fun.
Or anyway, have a nosy around the museum if you've not had chance because you're too busy looking at the cars in the yard.
Yes, yeah, all the bus museum, there's plenty to see there. They do have a miniature railway as well, which does sometimes run, which I haven't had a chance to have a proper poke around yet, but that could be quite fun. But anyway, that's coming up this weekend. Importantly, we'll kick off with something that I've done for the first time in a while, which is a chaser, because I haven't done one of those in like over a year. Went down to Tony Jardine, former sort of F1 pundit reporter, now does a few bits of classic rallying, went down to his and test drove his lovely Lancia Fulvia. That's appearing soon, but you can buy it now because it's not going through a dealer or anything. It is available to buy now. Chuck some pictures in and some details. He's looking to offload it very soon because he wants a different classic, and he's eager to get a shot of it. So I just wanted to squeeze that in as a sort of an early plug for a friend, because my show, I can do what I want with it. More importantly, we'll go back to last week's episode where it was a latest installment of Terrible Tapes and Crap Cassettes, where we received one that came with a brand new Nissan. I have got an email that explains where that comes from. The guy got back in touch. I should have prepared better and found it. Hang on.
What Nissan was it?
We're about to find out. Here we go.
Okay, all right.
So Mike, who sent me the collection of cassettes, got back in touch. Jesse, I was listening to last week's podcast where you mentioned the box of cassettes I posted down for your midget, and the question you asked about the Irish Nissan cassette. In the early 1990s, I was a mechanic at a Nissan UK dealership. We lost the franchise when Nissan UK, formerly Datsun UK, lost the import rights, and at the same time, Datsun UK founder Octave Botner dodged tax payments. It was then that Nissan GB took over and set up its own dealer network. As established dealers, we weren't able to continue the franchise because Nissan GB wanted a fresh start. As we were likely to lose a lot of customers, my boss imported a load of new Nissan cars and commercials from Southern Ireland. Slightly different spec, but all right-hand drive models and a bit cheaper. Inside each glove box of the Irish spec cars was an introduction cassette for each new owner. One car had 2 cassette tapes, hence why I had the spare one. At the time, I had a contact in the States who also worked at Nissan at an Infinity dealer, who used to send me the VHS tapes and CDs, all Nissan related, either sales-based or for the new customers, with around 5 tracks on the CDs. Sadly, I no longer have them. So we don't know which car, I can't remember which car it came with, but that's the story of how he ended up with it and why I now have it, which is brilliant.
So was it down to that transition from Datsun to Nissan and people going, what the heck's a Nissan? Is that it?
Partly down to that, and partly, yeah, it was literally because it swapped over from being Datsun to Nissan in Ireland, and it ended up being came with only with Irish sold Nissans, but then ended up coming up to what I presume is Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland from Southern Ireland, because the guy who was running Nissan UK dodged a load of tax. Nissan wrapped up Nissan UK, launched Nissan GB to replace it. So they bought a load of stock around to try and keep selling cars. It all seems very, very 1990s car dealership spec sort of chaos.
I love the idea that you walk into a dealership, buy a car, and then someone you feel the need to have a cassette that tells you what you've just bought. Like someone just got, yeah, I'll like to look at that. I'll have it. I've no idea what it is, no idea what it does, but I'll have it. Oh, look, there's a cassette that tells me all about it. That's useful. It's just very, very random.
Well, I mean, he says in the States, Nissan and Infinity dealers used to get VHS tapes and CDs as well. So imagine sort of going home and going, I wonder what my new car is. Oh, I'll watch this handy information tape that's come with it. Look, I'm curious as to what's parked out on my driveway. Oh, look, a VHS.
It's as much a window into buying habits of the 90s as it is anything else. I think, you think the amount of research that buyers put into selecting their cars now. I mean, I've been chatting to a few people who've sort of just been not knowing what to buy secondhand and sort of bending my ear for some thought sort of thing. And they've got Excel spreadsheets sort of like breaking down their choices. It seems like it was a very different world when you were buying a car 30 odd years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, I wonder how many people got one of those free cassettes and then stuck a bit of blue tack over it, so they got a free blank cassette to record a driving track to.
That's probably quite clever. Yeah, just sort of resetting it and sort of free tape at that point, isn't it? You can make your own mixtape over it. There's probably someone cleverer than me who could probably do like a fun Welcome to Your Nissan like club remix using the original track though. I will try and find a way of like sharing it out or find someone who's good at doing remixes, because I reckon there's the introduction to Nissan sort of club night remix that could be put out there. But anyway, funky introductions aside, we'll dive into the lead news story actually in this week's paper, which is classics are being used to flout ULEZ. James?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the headline we went for classics, not the answer to the ULEZ. That was the annual we went for. But essentially, it was like a motoring group. The Alliance of British Drivers. They reshared a story that was in the Greater London newsletter, suggesting that more and more people are turning to classics out of London to dodge the ULEZ. Spoke to a very nice chap at the Alliance who's very helpful and kind of confessed as well that at the moment it's small beer. But he thinks it's going to be more and more on the rise as it becomes more difficult to drive your classic in built-up cities. So London at the moment, but also spreading to all the other major cities that have got clean air zones. The thing with this is
more a case of that this could happen rather than it is happening, even from their point of view.
There's the rubber. They said it's likely to be happening, but then we went away and we spoke to a couple of other people who've done some quite lengthy research. So, including the Federation of British Historic Vehicle Clubs, who did the survey, which was last year. How many people did they speak to? They got over 19,900 responses to it, and that revealed that the average classic does 873 miles per year, 55% of which is just on short runs. So that kind of doesn't really bear out that people are actually using their Classic on a regular basis to dodge ULEZ charges.
I think that's the distinction, isn't it? There's always been that question as to when does a second-hand car become a classic? How old does a classic have to be before it's considered a classic? You just got to accept that there are just some old cars that are used as old cars that could also be quite easily classified as classics if it was bought by another person and used for hobby use, for going to events and things like that. And then it suddenly would be a classic sort of thing. So I don't doubt that this sort of thing might be happening, but the difference is I don't think it's happening intentionally. I think it is just it's just people using old cars as daily drivers because they like their old car and they maybe don't even see it as a classic or would sort of find it quite strange that their car would be parked up on a Sunday in a field sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those really. I think certainly we're of the combined view that classics shouldn't be used to flout these rules sort of thing. At the end of the day, when a classic car goes into one of these zones, you almost got to think of yourself as sort of an ambassador. You're there sort of promoting the hobby. You're there sort of putting on the best foot forward in terms of why it is that you should be part of this hobby, of this movement sort of thing. So yeah, it's an opportunity to sort of show off our heritage and to show off our passion. It's not an opportunity to save a few quid.
I think the other side.
I know on a day like.
I was going to say, I think the other side of this is also the fact that we've got more and more cars that sort of people are forgetting and just aging into classic status.
Exactly.
Like 1986, there's no reason that like a well-maintained sort of late Nissan saloon is still sort of going to be chugging around on the roads. If you've just sort of bought it and just never particularly thought of it as just anything more than a tool for getting around, and you've had it for 40 years and it's still serving its purpose, for cutting in and out of sort of Bromley or something, it's probably fine, and you're just not going to realise that you've somehow ended up with that exemption just by always having the same car. I think and I think that's going to become more and more prevalent, especially as those classics get essentially get more and more modern and more long-lived in their regular use as well. In the same way that we've sort of seen people that still got Rover 75s on the road as daily cars, now being seen as sort of modern classics and cars to be cherished, to many are still just cars on the road.
Well, exactly that. I think, yeah, the amount of people who would actually buy a classic to use to drive to Bromley, very, very small. Bromley, just an example that you picked out. But yeah, I mean, it's a very hard thing to live with a classic and then to subject it to the rigors of regular driving in a major city as well.
It's not hard, is it? It just requires certain allowances. It's a mindset thing rather than a difficulty thing. And some people revel in it and some people shy away from it. Absolutely. You know, it's no different than anything else. But as I said, people, if they are doing this, are rather missing the point, is kind of my take.
I would say, as we point out, the official statistics that we've got point to people aren't actually doing that at all. They're still using their classics as a second vehicle, a bit of fun. But then on a day like today, if either of us had a reason to drive into a major city and the weather's like this and we had a working classic, we'd take it anyway because that's what we drive.
Yeah.
The fact it's
and hopefully put some smiles on people's faces as we drive by sort of thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think I've got sort of the closest argument with this because my girlfriend lives inside the ULEZ zone. If I get off the bypass on the way to hers off the M25, I end up in a ULEZ zone. And again, I'm fortunate that the Jimny is exempt, but so's the MG. And I don't feel like I'm using the MG to try and sort of escape that rule because my daily car is exempt anyway. But sort of as you're driving around, you don't see a lot of people sort of purposely buying 40-plus-year-old cars to get around that rule. And I spend a lot of time driving in and around sort of those sort of southern bits of London. It's not happening. I don't see anyone doing it. You don't see people like trying to get through daily life with them. There are clearly people that are classic car enthusiasts because you sort of see them and they're clearly on their way to a show. They're taking part in it. They're driving sort of an MGB with the roof down on a nice summer's day through that part of sort of southeast London because they're clearly on their way to an event. It's a Saturday afternoon. they're not doing it to go to like their commute on a Tuesday morning. So it's, yeah, the use point, the data, the things that I've seen firsthand as well, all point to this being very much a fringe thing, or just a case of people have not realised that the Nissan Cherry they're running is now a classic and it's now actually exempt from all those rules. But it's an interesting story, and certainly one that I think will be interesting to see how it develops as the years roll by. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the current issue, we are looking at 50 years of the TR7. And we've talked about the TR7 a fair bit before, but the real question I have, Chris, is you've owned a TR7. Why?
Yes.
What was it that drew you to the TR7? What was it that made it special?
I'm just going to caveat this just to save us some potential letters. The 50th anniversary relates to the UK launch. So it was already on sale in the US in 1970.
Yeah.
But yes, the very much the timing of this feature is to coincide with the UK launch of the car. Why did I buy a TR7? I'd had an MR2 before. I think just the wedgy shape of it kind of sort of appealed. It was one of those where I was looking at various different cars, and I think it was just the right car at the right time in the case of the TR7. It was more than just the car itself appealing. It was the fact that it was for sale through a dealer that also had a workshop, and therefore I would have, if anything were to sort of go wrong that will be beyond my skill set, then I knew that they were there and they could be called upon. I liked there's various driving clubs that I've joined and been a part of, sort of thing. All of them I thoroughly recommend. So there was that side of it as well, sort of thing. So it just something clicked with it. The one I had was a 2-litre. It was a fixed head, but it had the Webasto roof, so it kind of offered the best of both worlds in that regard. I'd had the MR2, as I mentioned, and I was looking for something slightly older. Again, make that jump from 80s to 70s wasn't a huge one. And yeah, I like the look of it. I like the way it drives. It had a 5-speed box, so it was more than happy cruising at sort of 65, 70 mile an hour on motorways. Yeah, and as I say, there was a very clear route to improvements as well that was there with regards to the dealer Rob Sport in Hertfordshire. So yeah, it was, I think, an appreciation of the TR7 as an entity came after the purchase. As it was, I just saw something that was old and interesting, and that I knew I'd be able to use within my capacity as a motoring journalist. But obviously, once I sort of dug into the law, because obviously I had a car here that didn't look like all the rest of the TR7s. It had the rear spoiler, it had the front splitter, it had the fog lamps. I later learned that it was a sort of a pseudo special edition called a premium. So yeah, all of the sort of the history and the law came afterwards. In the event, it was just, it ticked a lot of boxes at the time, and I got along with it really well during my test drive. And in that instance, that was more than enough. It fit my budget. I believe I bought it for 2,250, something like that, and that will have been 2018-ish. So yeah, and the other reason I sort of parted with it, because I moved house and the garage that I had wouldn't accommodate it. Expanding family, an idea that I wanted a car that could accommodate children as well. So I bought a Mini. Of course, that doesn't have any seatbelts, naturally. But that logic aside, I was quite content with the TR7. It was just a change in my own circumstances that meant that I got rid of it.
Yeah, so they're an exciting little sports car to sort of buy and get hold of, and there's a lovely feature. Who wrote the feature for it? Was it Richard Gunn? Yeah, it
was Richard Gunn, who is very much a lover of BMC, BL, especially 70s sort of era cars. And yeah, he did a really good job with it as well. Just pulling out some details that people might not know, sort of thing, but giving a really sort of an overview with like multiple different entry points in terms of, telling people about the TR7, and hopefully, even for those who know them inside out, finding something they don't know.
There is Richard's handle on Instagram, from like Wedgeman007 or something like that. It kind of says it all.
I think it is, actually. And there's also a shot of your old TR7 actually in there. It's the image for aerodynamics.
Yep.
I was like W934V. We mentioned quite a few episodes ago that we'd spotted your car coming up for auction.
Oh, we've not seen what or if he did sell,
no,
did we? So
don't Google it.
Don't Google it. All right, okay.
I'd like both of you to put in a guess as to what you think Chris's old TR7 fetched.
I don't think it got anywhere near. Its estimate was what? It was 8 to 10, wasn't it?
I can't remember what the estimate was for it. It doesn't say on the old H&H thing. We'd have to really dig into the old CCW issues to find it.
I remember thinking it would fall short of its estimate. So I would guess it's probably something like 7,800.
James, what do you
I'll go the other way. I'm going to say 11.
Okay, well, 1980 Triumph TR7 sold for, including buyer's premium, £5,625.
I thought it was a very strong estimate. At the end of the day, the listing made reference to restoration work being done, and I wasn't responsible for it, and I couldn't see much that had been done different from the photos either. So that's no sort of aspersions on the owner who bought it from me. He certainly came across as an enthusiast, and I'm sure he had his fun with it as well. But that's the whole sort of it had been restored. It had been restored. It'd been restored in sort of the 90s, but that's the only restoration that I was aware of. And as I say, the comprehensive photos that were supplied, I really didn't see much that would suggest that restoration work's been done. I mean, in terms of my care and what I did to it, I did things like converting it to electronic ignition. I did things like putting an anti-dive kit on it because TR7s have a bit of a reputation for being quite sort of nose heavy in terms of their braking. And then it prevents it squatting in such a sort of pronounced way. It was things like that. It was tinkering around the edges. It was never anything especially exciting. I think I put some new shocks on it. I think it got some new bushing as well around the rear as well. But yeah, fall short of a restoration to my mind.
Maybe if you signed a dashboard, it would have been worth a few quid more.
No, they're lovely cars, and in theory they should be that value for what they deliver. But for whatever reason, the convertibles continue to outpace the fixed heads, and they do continue to be an overlooked car. But I would put it to readers that it shouldn't be. There's plenty. It's no more difficult to look after a TR7 than it is an MGB. And if you like the styling, as I did, there's much to get along with. It's a really comfortable sports car. I mean, that's maybe not what you're looking for in a sports car, but to be fair to me, I did do quite a few miles in it, and the driving position is really quite saloon-like and comfortable sort of thing. So I never had any issues with hopping in and enjoying it sort of thing. There's always, you want a sports car to be sort of engaging and things like that. I actually quite like the practical nature of the TR7 because it meant that it wasn't not being used because I was unsure how I would feel after an hour's drive in it, whether I'd be quite as enamored with the experience sort of thing. It was always incredibly comfortable. So
yeah, it's. I get the idea of having a comfortable sports car you can just hop in and enjoy. Like I've always been able to soak up the miles in my MG, and I don't find it like tiring to put distance into. So I appreciate sort of it improves the usability of it. And again, if you're feeling inspired by the brilliant Richard Gunn-penned feature that sort of delves into some of the quirks and features of the TR7, very reasonable car to go and pick up, as we've seen at auction prices at the moment. And great fun to own. Well, we're speaking of auctions.
I think the price that's been paid is still more than what I sold it for, to add some context as well. So I still think that it's done quite well. I just don't. I think the estimate may have been a tad ambitious.
Yeah, a big asking price. Perhaps they saw the Bauer Media sticker in the window and thought, "Oh, maybe this is Ken Bruce's old car." That was what they might have been contemplating. But speaking of auctions and sales, one of the other features in this week's issue is April's best buys revealed. So obviously, one of the things that David does every now and then is dive back through the auctions of the month and has a look at what's sold particularly well. And there is a brilliant spread of things that have sold quite nicely in April. What are your picks from this collection? James, I know the two of us are going to get in a fight over who picks the 88-inch wheeled Land Rover.
Yeah, it would have been me. I'd have gone for the Land Rover all day long. I've got a very soft spot for those at the moment. So yeah, absolutely ticks all my boxes.
Yeah, Chris, what floats your boat from this lovely selection that spreads from a standard Vanguard through to a Lexus SC430, all things?
I'm trying to pull up the spread, mate, because I can't remember. If I'm being completely honest. Come back to me.
Okay. Second spread within the buying section. I'm particularly taken by the Cortina 1600L. I think it's not the top spec, but I absolutely love the styling on that generation of Cortina. I just think it looks really quite fun. If you just wanted sort of like an innocuous 70s cruiser, I think it's there. It's on the money. It would have been the Corsair 2000E as well, another Ford Saloon. They're just so funky and different. They've certainly overlooked all the likes of the Escorts, the Angers, the Cortina. So for me, yeah, actually, I might switch my choice and make it the Corsair. £7,700 as well seems quite reasonable for a. Any luck finding?
I think it's interesting as well, some of the prices for E-types at the moment as well. That's they seem to be becoming more affordable, for even though I can't afford one of any description, but they seem to be coming down a little bit, which is quite good for someone who's not got one but sort of dreams of having one day.
62 fixed coupe. It's on the wider wire spoke wheels. It's nice. And at 44,850 at the hammer price, I think you could probably look at like a sort of second generation car, get quite a nice E-type for quite a reasonable slice of money, I think. And I think there's an interesting market trend for those we'll want to keep an eye on.
It's one of those things that it's like, I'm kind of obsessed with my old Porsches, and what I sold my old 912 for, I couldn't buy it back. I sold for 50 going back a few years. And I think if I bought another one, I'd have to spend 50. And you think, well, actually, if I had 50 to spend on a car, I could buy an E-type for less than that now. And it's like, so cast your net a bit further and open your mind a little bit. And yeah, it's interesting what is out there at the moment.
Here we are. Chris has found the spread. He's given it a peruse.
I'm giving it the full.
Full inspection.
I think that Vanguard's cheap, isn't it?
1848. Yeah, that's a very, someone's bought well there, I think, especially if it's in good condition underneath, because they're interesting little cars.
Wasn't in bad order. Bodywork had some knocks, some bubbling. Inside all good. Brakes needed adjusting. So it's probably a recommission rather than a restoration. But yeah, I think I've driven standard Vanguards from that generation, and then they're very, very, very modern feeling for their time. I mean, they don't feel like modern cars, but they feel very advanced for 50s. It feels like, it feels much more like a 60s, 70s car than it does a 50s car. So, and you get all the sort of the quirks of 50s motoring, sort of like bench seating and things like that. It feels really sort of solid, almost sort of Rover P4-ish sort of thing. So yeah, I've always been impressed by Vanguards, and again, they fall into that category of just sort of being overlooked. But again, you've got a fantastic club in the Standard Motor Club who can help you out if it is that you need any assistance. To my mind, very well bought for that sum.
I mean, Chris, you're kind of a similar age to me. I think I'm older than you, but they coming up for sale tomorrow is at Manor Parks. It's the Corsa. Have you seen that on the next page? The Max Power one.
Yeah, looking at it. My first car was a Corsa. It wasn't a Corsa B though. It was a Corsa C. My mum had a Corsa B to use for a period of time for a gardening business. So I remember easel when I remember sort of tooling around in that as well. So yeah, it's, again, everyone's nostalgia is different sort of thing, and it's a constantly moving target that we're catering for here sort of thing, isn't it? So yeah, I think that's incredibly cool, but I can see why there's a lot of people that might take issue with that take.
You see, for me, it's absolutely everything that I used to hate about cars in that era. I mean, I used to work with a guy who built a replica of that exact car, and he used to give me so much grief about being into Volkswagens. I just couldn't understand his love for the Corsa, but I just think that's going to get a bit of interest in it because, like, as we say, the demographic has shifted. So these days, the people who are listed after that car now are in a sort of position to finally buy one. So I'd like to see what that does, actually, because I think that's, for me, a horrid car, but an interesting car for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it will tell our generation of cars because we talk about sort of the Gran Turismo generation.
that is my childhood. So I would be very keen to partake. But yeah,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's not being max powered. It is just a special edition Corsa sort of thing. So I think I sometimes take objection to that, the idea that anything modern that looks vaguely sporty is in this max power sort of bracket. I think you can separate the two. I've always sort of thought of max power as being the very over external and mechanical modifications. That's not this.
It's of that ilk though, and I think it's going to be because we've seen the rise of the Gran Turismo generation as the next sort of car trend that we see sort of coming into the fore in the classic market, going to be sort of that era, because obviously we saw the rise of sort of like the 90s Japanese sort of sports and supercars coming through. The next thing that's going to sort of make a return is sort of the 90s hatches and things that were sort of lusted over and formerly of this parish max powered.
But then again, it's like I've spoken to a few people recently, like the amount of kids who grew up playing driving games and now buying the cars that they used to drive in those games. I mean, again, show my age here, but I used to play Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge on the Commodore Amiga. So for me, that was always a car I kind of lusted after and so yeah, to get off the box.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was never a particularly huge gamer growing up, but I had a couple of racing games with the original Xbox, and I think Dodge Viper SRT10, the original Viper, for me still stands strong as a car that I'd love to have a go in one day, because I remember experiencing it, because it was like the halo car for so many games at that point in time. Like, I'd just love to have a go in one just to feel how violent it is, but we'll see. It's an interesting time for the market trends, and we've seen some interesting cars changing hands for remarkable prices, including, was it an XK8 that came through, or an XKR that we spotted and appeared in the work group chat the other week for a remarkably low hammer price?
Yeah, David picked up on it, didn't it? But as you pointed out, it's everything that goes alongside it. It's a bit like that conversation you're having about E-types. I think there is the running cost that you need to bear in mind as well, sort of thing. And that was certainly the case for that car with the better part of, what did you say, £400 in tax? So
yeah, 430, I think, annual road tax, and really depends if it's had the Nicosil sort of engine bores sorted out, because they're all done under warranty and period. Some cars, they just up and swap the engines on them instead of just sort of sleeving them or anything. But if it's one that slipped through the net, good luck trying to get Jaguar to sort of take a look at that now. It does beg the question, could you take a classic car to its manufacturer's sort of showroom these days, and what would they think of it? Like a modern Jaguar workshop, are they going to sort of, you rock up there with an XJS and go, it's got a bit of a lifter tick, I think it's on cylinder 6, could you just have a look? And they're sort of going to go, where's the OBD2 port? Because I do wonder what would happen with my MG if I took it into a modern MG.
I think it's dependent from garage to garage. I think, if it is that there's someone who can remember the period, I think they will probably jump at the opportunity. But it's very dependent on garage, I imagine.
I remember going to my local Volkswagen dealership in the 90s to see if they had a switch for my Beetle. And I was stood in the parts department, and I asked the guy for what I needed, and he turned around and he shouted to the bloke behind him in the warehouse, where do we find the Beetle bits? And he said, it's in the folder marked SH1T cars. So that was all I needed to know. So yeah, not really accommodating for classic Volkswagens at that point, but yeah, I tried my best.
There was a great advert for Porsche Germany quite a few years ago where a guy phones up asking for a service and starter motor for his Porsche, and he sort of gives the model number for it. It's a 111D, and you can see sort of all the people in the workshop are sort of perplexed by it until sort of like one old bloke goes, I know what he's on about, goes and gets the old Filofax off the shelf and flicks through it and finds all the parts. And it's the old Porsche diesel tractor from the 30s or something. And it was Porsche going, yes, we love to support all of our older vehicles. And it's like, you could not have that if you turned up with like an old like Vauxhall Senator to like a modern Stellantis workshop and went, you got some bits for that. And they go, what? It'd be funny to try.
I remember I remember going to a parts place and they had microfiche. Remember that? Where they sort of like put it on the machine and like they're scanning through it. I have no idea how it even worked, but it looked like some sort of dark art trying to find parts on that.
Do you ever remember the overhead projectors at school where you had like the translucent sort of slip that went over it? It was like a scaled down version of that. So it was sort of like absolutely tiny and you viewed it through like a magnifying reticle. So basically you could cram a lot of information onto a very small piece of transparent film, pass it over a light, scan through it. It had sort of like coded sections on it so you could reference it. I think that's vaguely how I'm aware of microfiche.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you sort of hear it sort of like whirring through and then it would clunk as it came to a stop as it got to the next section. Because they used to store old newspapers on it instead of keeping like paper stacks of all the back copies. It'd all just be transferred. Don't ask how I know this. It's mostly due to espionage. But anyway, it seems like a perfectly useful point at which to wrap up this week's podcast. A reminder that we're out and about tomorrow at Wythall Transport Museum from 9 o'clock with the Young Owners Meet. And following that, in the next issue, I finally start taking apart of the MG. There's the report on that and all the findings that have gone wrong there, as well as a brilliant feature on bagging them before they're gone. So this is cars at the bottom of their depreciation cycle picks, or cars we think have reached the bottom of their depreciation cycle, as well as a neatly tied in lead news story looking at modern classics that are leading the way as the classic scene changes. So plenty to look forward to there. Some very interesting stories. Otherwise, anything else to add in, gents?
Nope. Go out and enjoy the sunshine, guys.
Yep, exactly. Get out there. Enjoy the sunshine.
Right, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Classic Car Weekly podcast and another issue of Classic Car Weekly. Thank you very much for listening.